Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Put that back up there. If you're watching the Zoom, Flagstaff. What does that say? Hypnotherapy. He's back. Don Berlyn. He's here drinking some coffee, tea, or whiskey.
Well, in this case, just water. However, the other sound, I've almost had my fill of coffee today. There's still more, though.
I know I'm the same way, but look at you all branded out with your company. I love it.
Yeah,
How come I
over the
don't have a
years.
coffee? You got to send one to me. And I should
Okay.
use it. Thank you. Thank you. It's like, wait,
Yeah,
make note.
shoot me an address and I'll send it to you.
Thank you, Don. Pleasure to have you back here. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about yourself, please.
Okay. Well, just like we've been talking about, so I've been the most relevant things is I've been a physical therapist since 1986 and been a hypnotherapist since what year was that? 2007.
Okay.
And the reason I got into it was working with my chronic pain patients. I needed another way
Yeah.
besides physical, which wasn't quite doing it. So I looked into other ways to deal with pain, found hypnosis, found a good school, went there, came back. I was going to work with medical issues and pain. And my first paying client actually had arachnophobia, so fear of spiders. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. So now the medical part's maybe 10%. And the biggest bundle of what I deal with, even if the person comes with another complaint, what's
Yeah.
behind it most of the time is stress and anxiety. So that's been my focus. And even smoking, people don't think of smoking. They think, oh, just get rid of the habit. Well, the reason they continue smoking sometimes is smoking is the one thing they've learned that seems to soothe the stress and anxiety. Obviously, it's not a good thing, but temporarily it can bring them some relief.
That's sure right. And how
Yeah.
do we contact you before we begin?
Yeah. So flagstaffhypnotherapy.com. And texting is a good thing too. And that's 928-699-8263. And that's about it. Oh, my email, I guess I should do that. Flag Hypno. So FLAGHYPNO at gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So yeah, as you were saying, the smoking, the anxiety, the stress, these are all things that you can work with us. You're based out of Flagstaff, but we can also do it over Zoom, just like we're doing here today. Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Hi. What did you have in mind for us today in the world of hypnotherapy?
Well, first of all, if you hear loud, it sounds like thunder or explosions, that's because we're having a big thunderstorm. So here in Arizona, everyone
Oh,
thinks it's
sorry.
dry, but we get these, it's called monsoons. It's just a tremendous amount of water. Mainly it happens in July and August. So it's beautiful. Everything's green. The fire danger went from maximum to zero.
Mm-hmm.
So we're happy up here in the forest, but it gets loud and there's a lot of lightning. So
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, we
yeah.
have, the remnants of that Hurricane Debbie. It's on its way
Oh
up. So
yeah.
we're on the way on the East Coast. So yeah, we're getting some of that soon. But it's been raining here for
Okay.
3 days, which has
Wow.
been crazy, but it's nice. I kind of like the lull. Need a
Yeah.
little, my
Yeah.
boys don't like it. They're like, nah, nah. I'm like, no, this is nice. It feels much calmer when it's raining. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's
With the
quite calming.
sound is really soothing. And thunder can scare people, but
Yep.
just that
Someone's in bed screaming the
constant
other night.
low
Yep. But
sound is just really calming.
it's
It,
hypnotizing. It's
it is.
it's got
It's white noise. People
mm-hmm.
actually, you can buy or even download for free nature sounds, and one of them you can
Yep.
get is rain, waves, rain, forest noises, birds. I don't know if you heard that, but there's another big
Yep.
clap of thunder.
I hear
Uh,
it.
Good. So I wanted to talk about a few things today. I
Sure.
put down just kind of a uh, mishmash of things. So I want to talk about the mind body.
Sure.
So our body is your body. What our mind perceives about the body is a different thing. It's not always the same. So an example of that is a few years ago, I had a hip replacement. And so I wanted to do it using hypnosis. So I'm
Okay.
not, so they had to do local, which means I had to sit up and they injected the anesthesia in my spine. So I believe it was an epidural or one of the,
Mm-hmm.
or spinal. In any case, the important thing is that I'm sitting there and my legs are straight. And for some reason, I paid attention to what my feet were doing. And at that moment, they were pointing straight to the ceiling. So that was my mental image. So then I had the injection and I laid back down
Uh-huh.
and then I was covered with the sheet at that point. And so throughout the surgery, from time to time, I would just get this idea like I would just touch base like, okay, where are my feet?
Yeah.
And in my mind, they were pointing right to the ceiling. But I'm a physical therapist. I've actually seen these surgeries. My my leg was off the table, most of it. It was twisted every which way. They were hitting it with chipping away through the bone, and there was drilling and pounding and all that kind of stuff. So my logical mind knew where my leg was. Okay, my left leg was off the table. My feet were not pointing at the ceiling. Uh, but whenever I just thought about, okay, where are my feet? They were pointing at the ceiling.
Yeah.
So I had two things going on. So I had my mind had this picture of my body a certain way. Whereas my logical mind, when I broke it down, is like, "Oh, okay, that's not really possible. Here's what reality's like." So if you
Yeah.
think about it, people get an image of themselves maybe as fat or ugly or something, and they hung on to that image. And when they close their eyes, think about, that's what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
Even if maybe they used to be heavy and now they're not, they have this mental image of their body that's not accurate. Their logical
Wow.
mind may go, yeah, I've lost 60 pounds in the last 2 years, and I get on the
Yeah.
scale and my clothes, all the physical evidence is telling them, you're 4 size, as far as belt size or something, you may have lost six inches.
Right?
Women's sizes I
Like,
know are random.
whoa.
Yeah, and so every piece of measurement is telling you, yeah, you're in much better shape, you're much thinner, all these things. Maybe people are telling you, gosh, you look great. But in your mind, you have this little thing that maybe has
Mm-hmm.
been implanted when you're a teenager that, yeah, I'm overweight, I'm fat, I'm ugly. And
Yeah.
so until you can deal with that mental image, you're not going to really
Yeah.
feel at peace. Does that sound right?
It does.
And you might know
Yeah.
people who are like that.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps in your business, well, here's a weird phenomenon. I think it happens to pretty much everybody. When we first hear our voices, it sounds horrible, and it doesn't sound like us at all. And but first of all, there's a physical reason for that.
What is
So
it? I'm
you
just
you may
curious.
may know that. So we hear our voices differently because it's being created inside
In the
our
head. Yeah.
heads. And
Yeah.
so you have all these air pockets, called sinuses, and they're resonating just like an open space in a guitar. And so that's what you're actually hearing, and that's stimulating your inner ear. You're not really hearing the sound that comes out and then bounces off the wall and comes back. So our experience of our own voices is not what anyone else hears. But then when you hear a recording, you're hearing what everyone else hears. And in your mind has a certain expectation of your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you hear it, lots of times I think people just jump to the thing, that's ugly, that's terrible, that's not me. But in reality, your voice may be, I don't know what Pavarotti thought, but
Mm-hmm.
or some wonderful singers we could think of. There's
Wow.
this mismatch between what we experience and what our
Mm-hmm.
mind thinks versus what the reality is.
I just have to
So,
bring this up. It's just a funny kind of story. My uncle who just passed in his dying days, he told my aunt, "Your voice is so annoying." And that's like what this we were like laughing about it at the funeral at the wake and stuff about how she's like he didn't want to hear my voice. She said it was so annoying to him. Like he had esophageal cancer, so he was on his
oh
way
my
out. We were
gosh.
just waiting, at this point. But
Uh-huh.
it's just a funny story how his own ears changed too as he's passing. Like he didn't want nothing to do with her voice. Sorry, I just had to
Oh,
bring that up.
wow.
Yeah,
No,
it
that's
happens. It happens.
yeah. So yeah, our ears can change and
Yeah,
to
yeah.
where you can't even hear
Mm-hmm.
the recorded sound of your voice doesn't sound the same because your ears aren't working.
Mm-hmm.
Internally though, it has to do with nerves and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But that conduction, they actually use it, bone conduction. They use that in to help with hearing aids and stuff. I don't 100% understand it, but they actually use that resonation effect to get your
Mm-hmm.
skull to vibrate.
Yeah.
So the parts of your ears that may not be working, the little tiny bones, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's being supplemented by your skull actually vibrating. So Anyway, but the whole idea of like the reality between what we think about ourselves, what our mental image and impression are, versus what reality is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure a lot of people, probably in your business and stuff, they probably are really self-conscious about your voice because that's your bit. There's two things probably, the sound and the way you look and present. And so if you have a negative image of either one, it probably makes it really difficult to
Mm-hmm.
be
Yeah.
really comfortable and go out there and, you know,
Well, there's so many people like actors, Hollywood actors that say they can't watch themselves. They don't want to hear or see themselves on camera. They'll act and do their job and they just
uh-huh.
can't.
Hmm.
Makes them
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. So it's amazing how how that drives us, you know? And I think,
Mm-hmm.
narcissists are on the other extreme. They probably think about them as one, and a lot of us are dealing with reality. There's a disconnection between the way we present and the way we perceive ourselves. So, and it can causes a lot of misery and holds people back from maybe achieving what they can. And I'm
Yeah.
not, saying I'm beyond that. I've had to deal, with all those little things. So anyway, that was my little thing about mind body. Um, it's a long way to go from a hip replacement. Um, so I wanted to, I'm recovering from COVID. It hit me really bad a week ago.
Oh, I'm
In
so
fact,
sorry. Yeah.
Saturday I was pretty much bedridden. Yeah, yeah, thanks. And
I had it
I
too
had
a few
brain
weeks
fog,
ago.
which is,
Wow.
yeah, and it's weird when your brain itself is not working. Like you can't really access your memory as well. And
Mm-hmm.
common words and names, I had the hardest time, even expressing myself.
Wow.
And then gradually that's gotten better. And so today is a
Good.
lot better. I've
Good.
never had. I may have had small bouts of COVID in the past, but this brain fog everyone talked about, I didn't know what that was until I really experienced it the other day. And I've had all my, injection, boosters and all that
Mm-hmm.
business. But apparently that doesn't prevent the whole thing. Um, so, but if my voice sounds a bit weird, which it could be because my head is not quite the
It's
same,
a little
but
cloggy. Yeah.
am I a little cloggy? Okay, that's what's excuse me going on. I feel wonderful, but
Mm-hmm.
might sound weird. So I want to cover. So I'm covering them a lot of little bits that apply to what I do. So there's this, everyone's heard probably fight or flight or
Yep.
the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So just a quick,
Mm-hmm.
redefinition of those. So sympathetic is what happens when we're scared or even when we're really energized. On the scared side, the negative side, it's all about safety. So that's the fight, flight, and the third F is freeze, which a lot of times gets forgotten. And I know I've forgotten it. So if you think about what animals do, if something happens, there's three options. They can either attack the threat, they can run away from the threat, or
Ah.
sometimes the option is to just freeze, not move at all, and hope maybe the predator will just ignore
You
you.
don't see
Um,
me. I don't exist. That's a rabbit I would
exactly,
say.
yeah. So,
Oh.
that's one option, and it can happen like in the social, and like where you feel
Mm-hmm.
threatened socially. It's like, well, I can, try and blend into the wall. I can leave the
Mm-hmm.
room, or I can attack back. That's pretty much what the options are. So that's sympathetic.
Okay.
Everyone's experienced that. Then on the S side,
Mm-hmm.
you got parasympathetic. So that's one way to remember that. It's called, I have to remind myself, rest and digest. So
Ah.
that's like taking a nap or getting sleepy and really
Mm-hmm.
relaxed. It's also the best time to eat because in order to eat, you need to be calm. Your body needs that all the blood that was going to your muscles to now go to your digestive tract. Otherwise, during sympathetic, it's really hard to digest things. People feel ill, their food isn't being digested. They
Okay.
might get diarrhea because, the body is saying, the brain is saying, gotta survive, gotta
Mm-hmm.
survive. We don't care about food. That's for the future.
Yep.
Whereas, when parasympathetic, like everything's cool, we're safe. So if they're ends of the spectrum, but they're not either or. So we can go all the way into parasympathetic and drift off to sleep. That's fine. It's hard to do anything else, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Sympathetic is you can't do anything else, you're running for your life. But in between is where you need to be most of the time. So if you think about if you're going to do something
Mm-hmm.
like, for me, even being on this podcast today, I can't be too parasympathetic and sleepy. that feels good, but I'm not able to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I can't be the other way and be totally scared. So I'm
True.
actually, getting to a place in the middle somewhere where I can have the energy to do what I want to do, but not too far. So
Yeah.
if you think about athletes, like someone who's going to run, like do a 100-meter dash, like, if you guys watched or heard about the Olympics, um,
Mm-hmm.
they need to have that balance. If they're too sleepy, they
Yep.
can't do anything. On the other hand, if they're too freaked out, they also can't do much. So you got to find that small place in between. And
Yep.
even better examples are things like gymnastics. They can't be afraid of what they're going to do, or they couldn't even do it. On the other hand, they can't be too calm about it, or they can't perform either.
Ah,
So so ideally, because it's kind of presented with the idea of parasympathetic, sympathetic,
yeah.
either extreme can be appropriate. Like if there's a real danger, the house is on fire, you need to run. Um, if the other hand, if you want to just, relax and be able to go to sleep and all that kind of stuff, you need to be all the way to the parasympathetic side. But most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, we need to know how to, first of all, recognize where we are.
True.
If there's a problem, then you need to start thinking, okay, well, this is what I'm feeling right now, but here's where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Wow.
can go back in your toolbox. We've kind of talked about this in the past. You could go back and to a memory of doing what you want to do and be in just the right place and kind of go through, okay, what was going on when I felt that way? Get into that mode, have your mind there and bring it to right now. So that works
Interesting.
for it to be calmer. It works to be more activated.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that little bit of stuff we deal with all the time and don't think about. And most of the time, if we, for most people, you're really functional. You get to just that right energy level and do what you're going to do. In your job, you're probably doing it all the time. You have to be pretty aware, pretty alert.
But I just
Uh,
am. I love it. I love talking to people. I love when it's
yeah.
Don Berlyn time.
Thanks. But if you're too,
No,
like if
I
you're,
become friends like with the like the all of you. It's great.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I learned so much about these different fields and careers, and it's just life is so amazing. I just get to meet amazing people. So I'm blessed. But go ahead. I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'll
Well, thanks.
digress.
No,
I don't want to
that's great. So you have your energy, which is really high energy for this. Now I'm not sure what you're like the rest of the day.
I'm
After a whole day
always
of
like
work, you
this.
might be
Oh,
exhausted. But
I'm
yeah,
hyper crazy,
all the
like
time.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, getting a personal question. So, how does
Sure.
that feel? You feel like you like being that, right? Like that
Well,
matches who
yes
you
and
are.
no. It matches me, but it's so funny because over the years, like I have my best friend who's married with two kids. Their kids are in college now. Her husband, I've known him since high school, and he's a PA, and he's told me for years, and my girlfriend's an RN, you need to take some escitalopram, Lexapro. You got to calm down. You're always so hyper, and I'm like.
Uh-huh.
Really? I'm like, but this is just who I've been and I've always been. So I literally went on medication because they said that. And for two
Uh-huh.
years, I tried this Lexapro pill. It did nothing. I saw him the other day
Uh-huh.
and I said, Mike, I've come to the realization this is just me. It's my core. I'm hyper. I talk fast. I get excited. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
this is this is not something that could be controlled by a drug or calm it down. But I even had
Yeah.
like my old OBGYN told me the reason why you're single is like you're too much for a man. You talk too much, you're too energetic, and I'm like, but it's like, so just take it down, take it down. I never forget that after I had my first kid, he's like, yeah, and I'm like, I have to change. I'm like, but am I a bad person? What am I doing wrong? It started to feel that
Yeah.
self-doubt and like, and then I finally just realized recently, I said, this is just who I am. This is how God made me. Why am I going to try to change it? If I'm okay with it, I'm not harming anyone with my hyperactivity
Right.
and my love for life and I just, it's me. And I think everyone's different. So I just had this conversation with him 2 weeks ago. I said, medicine's not going to help me. This is who I am and I'm okay. I've survived this long. I'm okay. I'm raising my kids. We're fine. I'm just hyper.
Right. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
important that so your mind,
It's my normal.
matches, yeah,
It is.
who you are. So there's not a mismatch between like, I talk too much or I got too much energy and that's a bad thing or I'm way over the top.
Yeah.
Whereas the reality is you're just at the right place for you.
This is just me. I don't know any other way. And if I
Yeah.
try to calm down, talk a little slower, be like, when I report like hard news and stuff and anchor the news, I just feel like it's not really me. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I'm talking like this, and that's not me. I'm more of the hyper outgoing, energetic, reporting
Yeah.
the fun stuff type of person. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I know this is me.
Yeah. And so
Love it or
it's
leave it.
yeah. And so, you have, you're
Mhm.
wired that way. That's who you are. And you realize that, and that's a wonderful thing. It's where you should be. And then, people like me, I don't come across that way. I tend to speak slower, and, you know, I'm always very calm, pretty much.
Ah,
And that's just
I
who I
love that
am.
about you. That's great. It's
Yeah.
very soothing to talk to you because I'm not a soother. I'm a hyper person.
Yeah. So you'd be like a good coach, probably you'd get people riled up, in
Yeah,
a
but
good
I
way.
can't calm them down.
Yeah, and so that might be, someone like me. If someone's too excited, or
Yeah,
they're
right?
just nervous all the time, then they could come, see someone like me, and I could, kind of
We
be in
all
a
have
calm
our strengths and
environment.
weaknesses. That's all I got to
Yeah,
say, right?
exactly. And that's, what, makes the world a great place. Um, yeah, so this is way off on a tangent, but
I
have you
know.
heard of something called an Enneagram?
Oh, wait, that old school for the school they used to test you to see what type of personality you have or
Exactly.
something. Yeah, something
Yeah,
like I've heard of that.
yeah. Did you ever take that thing?
No, no, I mean, I think that's something we did in like elementary, high school. I don't even
Oh,
know.
really?
I have to
Okay.
look.
I'm guessing high school, but so what it is a series of like questions,
Okay.
and there's been a lot of studies on this, so it's pretty well validated. A little side thing on that. Have you heard of the Myers-Briggs? That's where you end up with the
Yep.
letters like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you end up with four letters that represent your personality, basically, how you deal with the world. And it's not exactly like you're not all the way introverted or you're not all the way extroverted. You're somewhere in there, kind of leaning to one side or the other. So that's the Myers-Briggs. Turns out that corresponds very well with the numbers. So it's 1 through 9 of the personalities that show up on the enneagram. I have a hard time with that. The word looks weird, but it's
Yeah.
enneagram. Like
Okay.
so, so it's very interesting to see where people uh, fit on that. And I took it years ago and kind of forgot about, but recently I took it again. And it's like, wow, that is exactly me. Both the strengths and the weaknesses are like, wow, that's who I am. That's how I function all these years.
So I could do this
And
online?
no, it's better to do it by online. Yes, online. I thought you said
Yeah, right.
on the air. Don't do it on the
Okay.
air. Do it
Ah,
online.
well, that's like right. Recently, I did like the love languages. I did that quiz online to find out what
Uh-huh.
love language I am, the type of person that that I want to attract type of thing. But I've done
Yeah.
that. But I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, I had one of my clients, and in fact, this just happened today. It seemed appropriate for her, and I just said, "Well, here's this thing," and she had kind of heard about it, but never had really looked into it. I said, you can find some free things online, and she just texted me just a few minutes ago and said, "Yeah, I found three different things, and they all were the same. So on all three of them, she showed up as a two, and I've actually had some books. So I did it online a long time ago, but now I had three books, each written by different people. And it turns out I'm a 9, like solid 9, no questions. It didn't matter which of those tests I took. And then there's lots of information about it. And
Yeah.
so you're still an individual, you're not in a box, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like it explains a lot of things, like how do I handle the world? How do I react to things? You know, um,
Interesting.
do what are the
I'm
what
looking
are
it
the
up.
what are like like when you're under a lot of pressure, what do you
Uh-huh.
do? But on the other hand, when you're at your best, how does that present?
Yeah.
And so it's just really interesting. And then once you know that, I mean, knowledge is power. So the more
Uh-huh.
you know about yourself, the more you're able to find out, oh, okay, I'm kind of slipping into this one behavior. That's my habitual thing.
Yeah, it
And
says
now I
there's
know that.
54 questions. It takes 8 minutes to do. I just pulled it up. All right, we won't do it now, but okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Curious.
So but next time we talk, we'll be able to do that.
My
Um,
personality test. Ah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've covered a lot. So I'm not sure how we're doing time wise. Are
We got
we
four
doing okay?
minutes. Good.
Oh, okay. I know my mind has no sense of time on these things. So let me ask you, do you have any questions? We've done stuff over, gosh, this is probably about our eighth time or so.
It's been a while. Well, hold on. I'm just fascinated by this Enneagram test. Is this the one that we took when we were kids and it told us what career would be best fit in? Or
No,
no?
that's a whole different thing. I can't remember the name
Oh,
of
okay,
that.
okay, okay. Because I'm like, is that what it did too? I'm like, I don't remember what that even said, but it gave you an idea of what you would excel at.
Well, here's
Th-
what's it's used a lot is
Go
more
ahead.
as an adult. So a lot of big companies actually use this, and maybe not at the entry level, but a little bit further on, because like if you want someone who's a leader of a group, I think is top of my head, I think that's a eight. Um, so it'd be good to have an eight around, but if you have too many eights, it doesn't work because everyone wants to be the boss. There's some other things like, someone like me, it's like, I don't really want to be the leader. I might be the best suited as far as knowledge base or skill base, but I really shouldn't be leading this project. I'm more, like, oh, I think, make sure everyone has equal time and all that. Not the best leader. Um, and knowing that about myself is valuable. But if the company or whoever's looking at making a team, it'd be good if they knew that. Like, okay, this guy's really good for what he has. She's really good for what she has. Let's get the right mix.
Mm-hmm.
And and yeah, if you have too many people who are, again, you know, have a lot of positives, but they're all the same positive, that doesn't work well. Um, that's one of the reasons, again, going way off tangent, how people talk about diversity and,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It has some political bias, but there's been really good experiments that show, like, if you get a group of people together and you have them work on a problem, if everyone has the exact same background, like, then they're probably going to come up with the same answer. But if you get people from different backgrounds, um, they're more likely to come up with different answers. And so it gives you more possibilities of maybe achieving more. So even if you look at, let's say everyone's the same race and about the same age and all that, if you take someone who's like a, microbiologist, and you take someone who's like me, and you take someone who else is maybe a business person, you get a mix of people, give them a problem. It's not too technical. Like if it's all about
Mm-hmm.
viruses, then obviously the microbiologist is going to have the answer. But a big, like a problem that affects society, and you're looking for a solution, having a mix of people is going to get you a better answer than if everyone's exactly the same. So when it comes out to looking at societal things, it helps when to have people of a variety of ages, maybe income levels, maybe racial levels, maybe ethnic levels, however you want to look at, and put them together on the problem and just see what comes out of that. Because we learn coping skills, we learn all kinds of different things based on the way we're raised and the society we're in and all that. So, again, this is way off on a tangent from wherever it was we started. But, going back to the test. So to have the most effective team, you want to mix out, not a football team, but even then, if you want the quarterback to be the one who calls the plays, you can't have all the
True.
linemen saying, "No, I want to call the plays." You
Yeah.
know, I want to be the person who you want your linemen to go, "Okay, here's what it is. Your job is to protect this 2 yards from side to side and 1 yard front to back. That's it. That's all I want you thinking about."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, and the right level of aggression too. So that's what you want, people who do that, obviously need the bodies for it too. But you want the quarterback to be not too passive, maybe not too aggressive, because you can see a whole lot of interceptions. But if that makes sense, you want a team that has the right balance. Maybe you want your receivers and your defensive backs to be a little on the cocky side, to really have a outrageous amount of self-confidence. If it could be two bench,
Yeah.
but if they're running down the field and they're going totally out there, they want them absolutely convinced that if the ball comes anywhere near them, they're going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have the right personalities and, of course, the physical bodies to go with it. So you want a mix of people to have the most effective team. Left to our own devices, we have what we have. And so once you realize that, you can work with it, your strengths and weaknesses. But if you're going to put together a team, you want that mix of strengths and
Yeah.
abilities. If everyone's exactly the same, you're less likely to get a good outlet, a good outcome.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. And Don, we do have to end it at this time,
Uh,
but always a pleasure having you
yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Thank
it's always a
you.
pleasure talking to you. Yeah.
Always, always. Thank you for everything. And how
Huh.
can we reach out to you? Please tell us,
Okay.
remind
All
us.
right. So email, which is flaghypno,
Okay.
FLAGHYPNO @gmail.com. Website is flagstaffhypnotherapy.com. And then if you want to text 928-699-8263. Yeah. So
Thank you,
thank you
Don.
so
Enjoy your
much.
day. Enjoy the rain. We'll enjoy it here too. And we'll chat again next week. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you so
seeing you.
much. You too. Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.